All right. Hello, everyone. Now I'm seeing we have about 30 attendees here. Okay, so let's start off. We have 1 hour here. We have a lot of information to cover. So let's just start kicking off. So hello, everyone. Thanks for coming, taking your lunch hour to join this Mitacs Accelerate and NSERC ARD joint application process and strategy webinar. And today we have Mitacs business development team in the Prairies region, NSERC ARD, and SAS Poly to join us to present. We will start with the quick roundtable of introduction. I'll start from myself. My name is Ami Wu. I'm the business development advisor located in Calgary. I work with a variety of colleges and polytechnics in the Alberta region, and I'll pass on to John.
Thanks, Ami. I'm John Sutherland. I'm a senior advisor with Mitacs Business Development, and I work co-funded with Nate. And I'll pass it to Kathleen.
Hi, I'm Kathleen Lorenzo. I'm the manager of the ARD program at NSERC. And I'll pass it to Shada.
Thank you. I'm Shada Knight. I'm business development officer working with Saskatchewan Polytechnic. It's nice to be here.
Thanks, everyone. So for today's agenda, we are going to start with a little icebreaker pool, and then John will run that for us. And then followed by that, Kathleen going to present from NSERC side, and I will present the Mitacs Accelerate project. And with joint opportunities with ARD, John will talk to the ARTP and mobilize strategies for developing joint applications. Followed by SAS Poly to share their strategies, processes, and the best practices. So in the end, we will have a Q&A. So you may see some slides to see questions, but for the time purpose, we're going to keep all the questions in the end. So let's begin with the pool. John, floor is yours.
Yes, we've got a few questions here that should pop up on your screen. There they are. So if you want to scroll through those, it's just giving us a little bit of a sense of who's in the room, as well as some of the familiarity with the program itself. And it'll also give us a chance to allow some of the attendees that might be running a little bit late to arrive here as well. So we'll just give just a minute or two here if you want to run through the poll and answer those questions if you would. Thanks. Okay, and I can throw it back to Ami if you want to go on to agenda item number 2.
Okay, thanks, John. Okay, so there we go for the NSERC ARD overview and the joint options with Mitacs. I'll introduce Kathleen to her presentation.
Perfect. Thanks, Ami. And I want to thank my Mitacs colleagues for organizing this session. So before beginning, I would like to acknowledge that I'm joining this meeting from Ottawa, from the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation. I think we can go to the next slide. So just a few overview notes about the ARD program for those who have not participated yet. So the Applied Research and Development Grants Program supports R&D projects that are led by college researchers in partnership with private, public, and not-for-profit organizations. These grants are up to $150,000 per year for up to 3 years. Each application must include at least one non-academic partner whose cash contribution can be recognized for is recognized for cost sharing. And if you go to the ARD website, there's a table that sort of lists the kind of organizations that we consider as whose cash contribution we consider eligible for cost sharing. Partners, applications can include multiple partners, but collectively the partners must collaborate actively in the research and have a plan and the capacity in terms of maturity, infrastructure, available resources to use the research results coming from the ARD project. ARD projects cannot be used to support secret or contract research. So that's just an important thing to keep in mind. ARD projects, oh, no, you can go to the next slide. Thanks. ARD grants can respond to a number of different applied research challenges and a wide range of research subjects. So the Applied Research and Development Grant is a tri-agency grant. So we support grants in the natural sciences and engineering, but also social sciences and humanities and health research. And as you can see in this slide, the projects provide partner organizations with access to the unique knowledge, expertise, and capabilities available at Canadian academic institutions. They train students in essential skills required by the partner organizations. They provide benefits to partner organizations and to Canada, and also allow a wide range of collaborations between different institutions and types of partners, which I think is sort of shown in the next slide, which is a bit messy, but I'll walk everyone through it. So this slide is really meant to show the flexibility of the different collaborations that can be supported by ARD grants. But it's certainly not an extensive list of possible collaborations. So for instance, in the first scenario, this is what is sort of the minimum requirement for an ARD grant, where you have a college applicant and one partner organization recognized for cost sharing. But you can also have partnerships that include a university co-applicant, as you can see in scenario 2. In scenario 3, we have multiple colleges and universities. And then scenario 4 has different types of partner organizations also collaborating on a single project. So these larger projects provide an opportunity to leverage resources and expertise across different institutions and organizations. Just a quick note here, university graduate students can be supported with an ARD. And on the technical side, those university students involved in projects must be remunerated as technical or professional college staff or as consultants, just in the budget of the ARD grant. Students in an ARD application must be college students. Thanks. So then just a quick note on the how NSERC reviews ARD applications. So when we receive an ARD application, it first undertakes an administrative assessment to ensure that the application is complete and complies with all the eligibility requirements of the program. Once the administrative assessment is complete and the application is deemed eligible, then NSERC proceeds with a merit assessment. For applications up to $40,000 per year, the merit review is done by NSERC staff through an internal review committee, and the assessment time for these applications is typically 5 to 9 weeks. For applications requesting more than $40,000, but up to $150,000 per year, the applications are sent to external reviewers. And because of that, the assessment time is typically longer. We posted on our website is 24 to 28 weeks, but currently we're still experiencing delays in external reviews and recruiting external reviewers. So possibly closer to 7 to 9 months at the moment, but we're working to reduce that. And so here I'll take a moment to mention that we're always looking for folks interested in participating in the review process as an external reviewer. So if you're interested or you think your colleagues or partner contacts might be interested, please reach out to us to be added to our pool of reviewers. So for both review processes, I'll just quickly go over some of what we look for in assessing the application. So the merit of the applications are reviewed using 4 main criteria, under each of which there are sub-criteria, and to be considered for funding, the proposal must address all criteria and sub-criteria. So for example, under quality of the proposal, the application must show that the project is original and innovative, that the research objectives and methodology are feasible, clear, that the support from the college and partner organizations are described, and that the budget and justification of individual budget items should be clear. The list of criteria and sub-criteria are on our website. And so in preparing applications for an ARD, I encourage you to go through the list of sub-criteria and ensure that each one is clearly addressed in the application. For the training one, there's 3 sub-criteria. So we're looking to see that the various approaches in the training plan would increase the job readiness of students by developing relevant research and professional skills. And we want to see that the participation of college students and other trainees are clearly described in the proposal. We also look for the promotion of enriched experiences and interactions for the trainees outside the college sector. And we ask applicants to describe at least 1 concrete practice that will be implemented to promote the participation of a diverse group of students, as well as promote an equitable, inclusive, and accessible training environment. And so on that, in that vein, ARDs can also be jointly held with a Mitacs Accelerate internship. So Mitacs trainees can be included in an ARD application, and this ARD Mitacs joint opportunity is a streamlined process. So we have an application mechanism to make sure that we have a single review for these types of applications. So this joint funding opportunity allows applicants to leverage the same cash contributions from partners for funding from both NSERC and Mitacs. And Amy will talk a little bit more about this in her later Mitacs slides. But I just want to say, to take advantage of this opportunity, applicants must complete an ARD grant application and request additional support through Mitacs Accelerate internships as a component of training. And to be eligible for the joint funding opportunity, the supplemental Mitacs applications must be submitted to both NSERC and Mitacs simultaneously. So what that means is the supplemental Mitacs applications cannot be considered retroactively after an ARD grant has been awarded. It's important to note that Mitacs internships cannot be the only mechanism for training in the application. So trainees must also be supported by NSERC funds, and applications must include college students, even if they are not the Mitacs trainee. As I mentioned, there's a single joint review process for this application, so it's streamlined. But to note that in addition to the training criteria previously mentioned, when reviewing an ARD proposal with Mitacs internships, the proposals must also describe the role of Mitacs interns in the research project, explain the quality of the research-based training experiences provided to the interns. The proposal should also describe how the partner organizations are committed to providing supervision and mentorship, and explain the number of Mitacs interns and how they're appropriate to the scope of the project. So all of this is outlined in the ARD application instructions if you ever need a reference. I just want to take this moment to highlight a resources tab in the ARD webpage. So if you're looking for resources to help put together your application, this tab has a number of useful links and some templates that can help you prepare the application. And I think on the next and last slide is our email address. So I invite you, if you have any questions while you're preparing or before you prepare an application, you can always reach out to us. And I think that's it for the NSERC portion. So I'll turn it over to Amy to talk more about Mitacs.
Thanks, Kathleen. It's really interesting that the NSERC encourages colleges and industry partners to be the peer reviewers. It just makes a lot of sense that sometimes by nature, the applications done by polytechnics and colleges could be different from the university. So by reviewed by the peers, that would be so good for that opportunity. So since here our attendees are all coming from the college and the polytechnics, it will be some interesting information for people to know here. So thank you, Kathleen. Just for our attendees, if you have any questions at any point, we're going to answer the question until the end, but you can feel free to type your questions into the chat. We will get back to you later for the Q&A session. Okay, so from my side, I'll proceed for the Mitacs Accelerate overview and joint application options with ARD. So I won't speak too much about Huawei, since you're already invited by Mitacs, you would know what we do. So essentially, we're a national non-for-profit empowering Canadian innovation and research through partnerships between industry partners and PSI, supporting student training as well. So here are some key numbers. Due to the time sensitiveness, I'll just pass on to the key part. So essentially, for Mitacs partnership model to be working, we need essentially one partner organization, one academic supervisor, and one intern working on a minimum 4-month project. Mitacs here can work as a bridge between academia and the community ecosystems and support you along the way for scoping the project and the application process as well. To be eligible for industry partners here on Mitacs, which will also applicable for the NSERC ARD application. It can be all the for-profit incorporated businesses. It also can be non-for-profits, municipalities, and hospitals to be the partners here. Here, this slide talks about the standalone Mitacs information. So Mitacs has a variety of programs to be jointly applied through NSERC. This will go through this Accelerate. Accelerate project is a program that can support the applied research, collaborations between research and Canadian and international companies and not-for-profit organizations. All level students can be eligible to be on the Mitacs Accelerate, from college level student, undergrad students, master student, PhD student, and postdoc fellows. And also both domestic and international students can be eligible as well. Our funding model can start from minimum $10,000 to a multi-million-dollar project, depending on the time length and complexity of the research application. And for Mitacs, we have a pretty high successful rate, which about 95%. But I do want to point it out, this is only for the Mitacs standalone application. For the NSERC ARD and Accelerate joint, there will be a different ratio for that. Moving on, for the Mitacs funding model, we have two basic ones. First one is the $10,000 for one internship unit, the single block here. So Mitacs does matching funding 50%, which will be $5,000. GST for Alberta businesses, it might be some other taxes for other provinces from the industry partner, and Mitacs will be able to match the other 50%. A second funding model will be a $50,000 model, 50%, which will be $7,500 plus taxes from industry partner, and then Mitacs will match the other 50%. The differences between these two funding models is that the $10,000 model has to be student stipend for all of that, and then for the $15,000 model, you have $5,000 flexibility to be spent on project-related expenses or used as a top-up for the student stipend as well, partially or all $5,000. To structure a Mitacs application. You can start very small from one internship unit, just like that, or you can scale up to add as many 4 to 6 month internship modules as you needed, sequentially or concurrently. You can have multiple industry partners or interns or post-secondary institutions to be on one application to be able to tackle more complex projects or achieve more longer-term goals here. So Mitacs does matching funding. How the funding model or the funding cycle works is once Mitacs approves the application, we will invoice the industry partner for their 50% of the contribution. And then we will be able to match the other 50 once we receive that, send 100% to the post-secondary institutions, and then they will be able to pay the student as their stipend. For the Accelerate and NSERC ARD joint application, Kathleen has touched on some requirements from the NSERC side. For the joint, essentially, it has to be fulfilled by both principles and requirement of ARD and Mitacs Accelerate, and to be submitted simultaneously. Essentially, you will still do the ARD application as required. You just need to submit the Mitacs proposal template and budget sheet into that ARD portal. On the Mitacs side, as the advisors here, we will be able to help you with that part of the submission. I won't go through too much of these details here as Kathleen has touched on that. I just want to address that Mitacs Accelerate internships can be a big component of the HQP training for your ARD joint application. For this cost sharing ratio, I wanted to show a straightforward diagram graph to present how that funding actually is structured. So let's take example of this $150,000 asking for NSERC, because as required, 25% of that will need it to be partner cash contribution. By adding on Mitacs, you're basically matching what the partner cash contribution is. Instead of $37,500, you will be having $75,000 to be used for Mitacs internship units that can be equal to 5 Mitacs internship units if we're using that $15,000 model. At the end, you will be able to get to $25,000 maximum for the funding per year. And to be noted here, college student, university student, or postdoc fellows, they're all eligible to be put on the ARD and Mitacs Accelerate joint application. I'm sharing some information here, me and John, but you also have your local BD representatives. You can touch base on if you have any questions or need any support. Here are our Mitacs funding partners. And for the next part, I'll pass on to John to talk about the strategies using previous NSERC support.
Yeah, thanks very much, Ami. I just wanted to address one quick thing from the chat that the slides will be shared with the recording after the session. So no worries on that for sure. So for my section here, I just wanted to talk about a couple of NSERC programs that could offer maybe opportunities to build some strategies for developing a joint ARD Accelerate. And so for the first one, using the Applied Research and Technology Partnerships, or the ARTP grants. So any of the colleges or polytechnics that have been successful in receiving this funding from NSERC would have used those to help businesses seize new opportunities by applying innovative research and technologies or developing into useful new products and services. And then these grants will also help to train students in leading edge skills essential for the future competitiveness of companies. So with this, there's an opportunity basically to take some of the findings. So in this case, I'm talking about findings, not funding. So findings in the projects that you would have done with partner organizations, and then taking those and developing them into maybe bigger or longer term projects that could be supported by the joint ARD and Mitacs Accelerate. So that's on the ARTP side. And then as far as with Mobilize, so sort of similar, but a different NSERC program. So Mobilize grants support applied research programs by enabling colleges to establish new applied research program or enhance an existing program, undertake a number of short time critical applied research projects, train a diverse pool of college students in applied research focused on partner innovation priorities, and strengthen connections with research partners and other government-funded innovation support providers, leading to research collaborations among Canadian colleges, universities, businesses, and public health and not-for-profit organizations. So really the opportunity here is that if the college or polytechnic was successful in receiving a mobilized grant from NSERC, you would have been basically doing that or using those funds to establish a new applied research program or enhance an existing one. And so as part of that, you'd be uncovering or collaborating with a number of partner organizations, from industry or public or health or not-for-profit, as was stated. And so with those findings, basically, or those collaborations that are being uncovered through that work, there's opportunities then to further leverage an ARD or joint ARD Accelerate to then actually work on specific projects with those partner organizations. Just wanted to bring up those two examples because there's a number of institutions across the prairies that would be part of this call that would have been successful in receiving ARTP or mobilized grant funding, that then the findings from those programs would then be able to basically leverage into future opportunities with the joint ARD and Mitacs Accelerate. So then we will move on to Shada to talk about some specifics with Saskatchewan Polytechnic.
Thank you, John. I would like to also thank you, the Mitacs team, for organizing this great webinar, and Kathleen from NSERC joining. I'm Shada. I will be talking a little bit about SAS Poly in general, how we are structured, and how we basically administer different funding opportunities. Before I start, I would like to also acknowledge that Saskatchewan Polytechnic is situated on Treaty 4 and Treaty 6 territories and ancestral lands of the Cree, Saulteaux, Dene, Dakota, and Nakota people, and also the traditional homeland of the Métis. Like just any other institutions, we love acronyms. So ORI stands for the Office of Applied Research and Innovation. And what we do at ORI is really simple. We tell stories, we chase money, and if we are lucky to get the money, we help to spend it. So through that, we usually assist our researchers with their proposals and applications. We also identify partners and external resources to bring in funding. And also we administer some internal fundings for our students and researchers that they wish to dip into the area of applied research. We have 3 major research centers at SAS Poly. Basically, ORI interacts with our research centers to apply on different types of funding applications for them. Another acronym here, SLICE, is standing for Sustainability-Led Integrated Centers of Excellence. It covers 3 different facilities, BARC, BTAP, and RAMP, that they basically oversee bioscience applied research center, biomaterial testing and prototyping, and also research in additive manufacturing and prototyping. Our next research center, which is also our biggest one, is called DICE, Digital Integration Center of Excellence. So anything that deals with data, it ends up with DICE usually. It could be anywhere from AI machine learning, mesh communications and control, IoT, cybersecurity, and such. So I actually found this graph in one of our team presentations that I found it really interesting. So this graph shows the full-time research capacity that we have at SAS Poly as of March 2023. And as you can see, our HQP resources are, majority of them are from students. So I can say that safely that the available funding to include most of our students in our applied research is potentially coming from full Mitacs joint Mitacs NSERC ARD applications. By saying full, I mean usually where the industry contributes more than $10,000 for the research projects. So within a full joint Mitacs applications, where we get $150K from NSERC and $37,500 from Mitacs, we could basically hire 2 additional full-time students per year on our applied research projects. How do we pitch it? so easy. Don't leave the cash on the table because it doesn't cost any extra investment for the industry funders to bring in more resources. Here, I'm more focusing on some of the joint Mitacs NSERC ARD benefits. Obviously, each program individually, they have so many valuable benefits. I'm just trying here to see what specifically ties to the joint applications. As we mentioned, enhanced industry fund leverage is one of them. The second one is improved compensation for our HQPs. As Kathleen and Ami also mentioned, we could always top up students' salary that we hire through Mitacs with NSERC fund and the other way around. Especially with our large Mitacs ARD applications, we usually do 3-year projects. So this becomes really critical to be able to keep the students on the project for the lifetime of the grant application. And also it provides enhanced student learning and mentorship experience. This closely actually ties back to what Kathleen mentioned about the training criteria. Because we are able to bring more students, and within each application, we usually hire researchers, technicians, and project managers. It provides a really great one-to-one peer-to-peer interaction and mentorship opportunities. And the experience for the students becomes much richer than just having one student interacting with all the teams. And also students within the same project, they usually find it more beneficial to be able to interact with each other. So what are some of the best practices that we utilize? I don't think I'm going to be adding much to that one, referring to the presentations and explanations that was provided earlier. But I would say communicating the joint grant opportunity with our internal researchers is really important to making sure that they totally understand the idea, the processes, and then they could incorporate it into their future projects. The fact that we communicate this clearly with them, that they can top up their Mitacs intern salary with NSERC ARD funds, especially for colleges. Usually Mitacs standalone is not the best model to operate with because it doesn't really provide enough funding to bring in other resources from colleges to work on the projects. We always include SAS Poly students in our grant writing. So how we do communicate this one back to our researcher is that if we have an instructor in another school that they haven't really been engaged with research activities, the fact that they could include their own students on the applied research projects, and sometimes the students, they have some desire towards some projects, this can actually help to motivate them to be more engaged with the NSERC ARD applications. And also we collaborate with the students from other academic institutions. We had scenarios that clients, they were interested to hire graduate level students like postdoc, PhDs, or masters, that we don't have such programs at SAS Poly. So we usually collaborate with other institutions or directly hire the students on our projects. We also promote this as a future career opportunity for our students, because all our outstanding students, they have been hired as researchers and senior researchers in our research centers. So when our research centers started, it was 3 researchers, and now we have a team of 50 students and researchers that they are working anywhere from 4 months to 3 years, and then if they are hired, they continue. And also, talking a little bit from the angle of outside SAS Poly, when we interact with projects and clients, we usually kick off projects with small NSERC ARD applications with a quicker turnaround time if our client is one of those that they like to start yesterday. So this really helps with kicking off the project and also following it up with a bigger NSERC application. We also recognize the potential that we can do sub-transfer the funds from our institution to other institutions if we are dealing with a multi-institutional project. We recognize the potential for fund transfer by Mitacs directly to other institutions that may be engaged in our Mitacs NSERC grant applications. And also we know that we directly hire students from other institutions on our Mitacs NSERC applications. I have a point here that I would probably need Caitlin's approval or confirmation. So we know that for our Mitacs interns, we could hire recent grads up to 2 years past graduation. And I was recently told that for NSERC applications, they recognize recent grad up to 1 semester past graduation for NSERC. Is that correct?
Yes.
Perfect, thank you. I personally wasn't aware of this until a few days ago. Leveraging the support of our Mitacs senior advisor, Dr. Ruja Pap. She's amazing, especially whenever that we have a new researchers involved. She basically walks us throughout the whole process. So in my last slide, I tried to try acronyms, but I wasn't as great as SAS Volley's marketing team. So PP stands for the pain points. So I wanted to kind of share some of the pain points or challenges that we face with doing joint Mitacs NSERC applications. The very first one is usually the fact that grant writing is the biggest barrier. It is so costly for us as a college to write another additional proposal to submit it as a joint applications, especially when we are looking into 1-to-1 leverage compared to 1-to-4 that we already have. Sometimes, even if it's not desired, we are forced into going with NSERC ARD application alone or Mitacs alone. But this being said, after doing so many of these applications, the process becomes a little bit more like easier, and we kind of understand what we are supposed to address in each application. And also processing time for joint Mitacs NSERC applications are longer. My previous Mitacs colleague might disagree with this, but in reality, we face a little bit longer processing time when we are submitting a joint application. And also NSERC has recently is extending their processing time for applications for the small ones to 3 to 5 months and the big ones to 7 to 9 months. And I believe this is going to add a little bit of like challenges trying to go with joint applications and even like NSERC ARD as a whole. Mitacs act as a bottleneck due to their grant finance process. I haven't heard this from our client this year, but last year we had scenarios where clients were saying it is just, it feels complicated how to pay the invoices. They were thinking if there was like a more straightforward way of making their payment, maybe through the credit card payments, that would be easier. We had scenarios where clients were at their financial institutions, but they were not able to process the payment of the invoices. And another point that I would like to share is that projects cannot start before industry funds are received and matched by Mitacs when we are doing an NSERC applications. So this is kind of the biggest difference also when you do a NSERC ARD application standalone, because once we get the approval or project is awarded by NSERC, we are good to go and we can start working on the project. And while we are waiting for industry funds to kick in. So NSERC doesn't require that to be able to release the fundings. And if for any scenarios like industry funds backs out, we don't have to pay the penalty. So NSERC recognize that, but we basically can return the remaining of the funding back to the funding organization. When we are involved with Mitacs, we have to make sure that the industry funds are paid. Otherwise, it's not their responsibility. This is clearly communicated with us. We are aware, but it acts as a bottleneck sometimes. And also, I heard this one from some of our researchers that they were new to the application, saying that it is not really that transparent for them when they are kicking off their very first Mitacs NSERC ARD application. But thanks to this webinar, I think this item is already going to be eliminated. Thank you so much. And I would love to hear some comments in the Q&A, how they see the pain points, and potentially maybe they have found a way to go around that. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Shada. Actually, this is a great kickoff for the Q&A section. So I'll invite Kathleen to speak about anything you feel like you can address right now, and then John and I can also follow up on some kind of updates for Mitacs side.
Sure. So I can talk about the processing time. So for the what internally we refer to as small ARDs, so 40K and lower requests per year, our processing times are fairly stable, provided that the application is clean in that we don't have to go back for more information or anything like that. So for those applications, we're typically seeing within our published guidelines, but they do get vetted by both agencies. So Mitacs does their admin review, so that may be why there's a little bit additional time there. And again, for the larger ARDs, the ones 40K and above, up to 150K, yeah, we are seeing delays on our end. We wait for the administrative review of both agencies, both Mitacs and NSERC, before we send to external reviewers, typically, just so that any issues can be addressed before they get reviewed by external reviewers. And so in that sense, that could extend the processing time. But typically for the larger ARDs, the reason is not that they're joint, it's that we, it's the waiting, recruiting for external reviewers is the majority of delays are due to that. I would say, yeah.
Okay. Shada, you have some? Perfect. Thanks, Kathleen. Yeah, I think also this for that recruiting side of the peer reviewers, external reviewers. So everybody here from the colleges and polytechnics, if you're interested, and please feel free to join their external review list, and then you can be part of the solutions here. So for my side, I can also kind of responding to a few points here. First of all, the grant writing. We do recognize, right, for colleges and polytechnics, sometimes it can be a barrier for that, especially this can be addressed by the first point and the last points here, especially it's new. As Shada also mentioned about for SAS Poly, the more they have been doing this, the easier it has become as well. And also as the Mitacs advisors on the team, we're closely working with the PSIs. So if we always say, if you have any questions, we will be able to support, and also, we can help pre-review the proposal before you submit to make sure key points are addressed. And for the grant finance process, as Shada mentioned about the invoicing, it had, and especially in the past year, we had some big challenges there. This has been smoothened out. And also Mitacs internally has been looking into optimize that system. For example, can give more transparency to people who are paying invoice or not paying invoice. They can get some notification maybe. So this has been recognized and in process of work. I'll leave to the project's industry funds part for John. You'd like to address?
Sure. Yeah. Just one quick thing about the invoice bottleneck is that at NATE specifically, the funds are typically already at the institution. So NATE already has the funds from their industry partner by way of applied research agreements. And so typically we're, or I guess in every case so far, Mitacs has invoiced NATE, and so we just have to do an extra form basically that says that the funds started in industry and that they're at NATE because of that agreement. But typically we're invoicing NATE for the partner organization contribution, which helps to smooth things out there. As far as the project start date and that, so we have had scenarios where the project has gotten started. The Mitacs interns haven't started working on it yet because there's other capacity. There's researchers. There's maybe other interns that are funded fully by the ARD side that are working on the project. And then as the Mitacs funds come on board and everything works out there, then the Mitacs interns start. So it's just sort of a timing thing sometimes. Might pass it back to Kathleen just to talk about the allowance of expenses prior to project start, which doesn't impact Mitacs, because the reason that Mitacs is invoicing the partner organization or the institution, if they already hold the funds, the reason that Mitacs is invoicing is so that we can basically create the award that's going to pay the interns. So obviously, if there is no payment from the industry partner, there'd be no money to pay the interns. So the program wouldn't work as far as Mitacs goes anyway. But maybe I'll pass it back to Kathleen quickly to talk about the expenses that are allowable prior to project start.
Yes. So if an institution receives funds for a project before they submit the application, I think it's look it up right now, but within 3 months before submitting the project, those funds can be provided that the partner organization is recognized for cost sharing per our partner guidelines. Those funds can still be used to contribute. So if the partner wants to contribute the funds to the college, and you haven't, you don't have your ducks in a row to submit the application yet, you have 3 months to still use those as the cash requirement from Mitacs. So there's a little bit of flexibility there, but I do understand it's, you're still juggling a bunch of things to get it to all come together into an application.
Yeah, and so then we have a number of questions here in the Q&A section. So maybe I'll just read them off and then I'll try to pass it to the appropriate person on the panel. So the first question says, for university students, they have to find a partner. And if you want to follow up after I try to answer this with a clarification in the Q&A section, then we could try to get more specific if I don't get it completely correct for what you're looking for. But as far as university students go, the scenarios that I've seen the most, so 2 scenarios, one where if it's a blended application where you've got a university co-applicant basically on the joint ARD Accelerate application, then the university side would actually be supervising the student that's coming from the university or supervising the intern coming from the university. And so in that case, the college or polytechnic is still leading the project just as they would be and have to be for ARD. But the university professor or researcher is working to help find that student to be the intern on their side. So the other scenario is when, so at NATE specifically, a short-term employment contract would be given basically to give the university student status at NATE. And then in that case, the NATE researcher would be the academic supervisor. And so in either case, though, the university student isn't having to go out to find their own partners or anything. I mean, they could, and that's where it could all start from, is that maybe a student made contact with an organization, the college is going to lead it, and then it becomes a project. But in the usual sense, the university students would be found by either a university professor or they'd be recruited by the college or polytechnic lead researcher on the project. So the second question here is, do I understand that although this is a single application, NSERC and Mitacs make decisions independently? If that's correct, what happens if only one approves the funding? So maybe I'll throw that to Kathleen just to talk about, again, the review process.
Yeah, so the way it's reviewed is Mitacs and NSERC, we do our admin review. We don't do a merit assessment until both Mitacs has confirmed to us that everything on the admin side of the application looks good. It goes through one single merit review process through the NSERC processes for grants. So the decisions are shared independently. So you will receive a decision letter from ARD and from Mitacs, but it is one joint review process. So it's one joint decision. You could always, and I'm looking to Mitacs to see if this is the same on their end, reapply if the application after the decision works out better and you need to sort of tease them apart, you are able to do that, but you could also adjust your application and reapply to both Mitacs and NSERC. I don't know if Annie or John want to confirm that.
That's consistent on the Mitacs side. So typically, because the review, like the merit review, is being conducted by NSERC, then typically Mitacs is going to follow suit on what NSERC says. So if it's approved, that's an easy one. If it's not approved, then typically Mitacs is also going to not approve and just follow suit. But then, just as Kathleen said, you have the opportunity to kind of, regather and reformat and then resubmit. And you could resubmit as another joint, just with the learnings that were taken away from the review. Or you could decide we're just going to go after ARD and just resubmit there, or we're just going to go after Mitacs Accelerate and just resubmit there. But either way, you have opportunities going forward. So the next question here is, can an Alberta institution apply for Mitacs on a joint ARD and Alberta Innovate's CASB application? And then, it looks like there's been some confusion there. So specific to Alberta, so again, back to Kathleen there, since these are both joint opportunities with ARD.
Yes, so currently we don't have, we can't do an ARD with two joint opportunities attached. So at the time of application, you'd sort of have to pick one. But if there is an appetite for this, we are happy to look into it with both our Mitacs and our CASB colleagues. Please feel free to send us an email with some information on, how that type of collaboration works, and we can see what we can do on our end to sort of open that up. But currently, it's one joint opportunity per ARD application.
And so just in the meantime, that would be an amazing thing for us to explore as the three agencies, for sure, to talk about how that might work. In the meantime, though, if it was a thing where absolutely you want to have all three somehow involved, maybe it's a joint ARD CASB as far as the joint goes, and then separate funds, separate industry contribution or separate partner organization contribution, and then you can create a separate Mitacs Accelerate that are working towards the same things, but just separate applications, separate programs, separate funding being leveraged. So there's potential there, just depending on the amount of funds that might be available from the partner. Next question here is, this question is specific to Mitacs, so I'm going to throw this to Ami. Given that many projects are multi-year, I assume that we don't have to identify the interns in the proposal, but can you please confirm?
Okay, thanks, John. Thanks for the question. Yes, for this part of the question, yes, you can submit as TBD on Mitacs side, and for ARD NSERC side should be accept for that too. Yes, confirm for your question.
Okay, so then the next one here is, for joint projects with a college and university, does all the NSERC ARD funds go to the college, or can some of it go to the university? If so, how much? So Kathleen, do you want to talk about just the specifics of where the funds are awarded, where the ARD funds are awarded, and then how they can be used beyond that?
Yes, so the primary applicant on an ARD application must be an eligible Canadian college. Eligible Canadian universities can participate in ARD grants as co-applicants. And in those cases, funds from the ARD grant could be transferred from that primary applicant college to the co-applicant at the university. We don't have a maximum, but that said, these grants are intended to support college research, so keep that in mind. But also, it's the transfer is done through a transfer of funds process between institutions.
Yeah, so basically, it's probably a best practice for the college and the university as the university co-applicant to have some sort of agreement on their own outside of the funding agencies to say, this is what we're going to transfer and when, sort of thing. So, but that's beyond either NSERC or Mitacs for sure. The next one here. Go ahead.
Sorry, Shada might have like firsthand experience.
Yeah.
I actually have I'm wondering about a specific scenario. So let's say we have a joint Mitacs NSERC application submitted, approved. From the way that we have done budgeting, all of the Mitacs funds are to go to another, to the co-applicant university. So for this scenario, would Mitacs transfer the funds directly to the other institution?
Yeah, from a Mitacs point of view, the Mitacs funds will be transferred to where the academic supervisor for the intern exists. So if the academic supervisor is named as a university professor or researcher, the funds are going to follow that, just like if they're at the college. Now, to be involved in a joint ARD Mitacs Accelerate, there has to be at least one college intern. So some of those Mitacs funds are going to have to flow. Yeah. So.
Yes, yeah, excluding that one requirement. So then we just need to make sure that we have the other institutions indicated that they will be supervising the Mitacs interns, and this way probably it could provide a little quicker process since Mitacs will just send the funds directly to the co-applicants. Thank you.
That's right. Okay, the next one here, can you provide more details about the funding scheme? So in Ami's slide, you mentioned $37,500 of industry cash can be matched with $37,500 of Mitacs and $150,000 from NSERC. The confusion was that they believe that $50,000 industry cash is what's required to get the maximum match for the $150 from NSERC. So maybe back to Kathleen just to talk about 25% industry cash, correct?
Yes, so it would be, I think, 37.5K. This is for the ARD grant. So perhaps the confusion is with the Alliance grant on the NSERC University side. They have a Mitacs Alliance joint funding opportunity, and Alliance grants have different fund matching. I'm not sure what it is, so I don't know if this example relates to that, but on the college ARD side, the minimum requirement for the 150K is 37.5 from partner.
Yeah, so overall, based on the industry contribution, 37,500 would be the way to max out everything. But overall, you're looking at a 5-to-1 leverage when you do a joint NSERC ARD and Mitacs Accelerate. So 37.5 turns into $225,000 for the project at that point. So there's a question here. We might come back to it just because it's a little bit beyond the joint application process. The next one, can a researcher hold concurrent NSERC ARD grants?
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect. That was an easy one. For the 25% industry contribution, if you have multiple partners contributing, can the individual contributions count towards the total 25, or do they each have to contribute 25?
As long as the on the NSERC side, as long as the all of those partners are recognized for cost sharing, then collectively they can contribute the 25%. It doesn't all have to come from one partner. Right.
Okay. And then same thing with Mitacs is that we'll invoice based on the cost sharing amount that's indicated in the budget. How far out from graduation can an intern be? Less than one. So I think we answered this one in the presentation, but for the Mitacs side, recent graduates could be up to 2 years, but from the NSERC side, Kathleen?
Yes. So for ARD to be considered a college student in an application, it has to be within 1 semester of graduating. That said, if you have multiple students and interns, you can have one intern recognized, that's further out from graduation, supported by Mitacs, because that still fits, and have another intern that fits within the NSERC requirements. So there's flexibility as well in, the number of interns and how they're supported.
Okay, and looks like maybe the last question here. If a college partners with the university, can a portion of the ARD funds be used by the university, or does all have to remain with the college? So maybe just one more time, just to reiterate that of how that could work.
Yes. So if a university is if a university researcher, for example, is a co-applicant on an ARD grant, then the institutions can do a transfer payment from the college that applied, the primary applicant college, to the co-applicant university. So it does not all have to remain with the college. But just to be clear, the university has to be a co-applicant on the grant in order for that transfer of payment and transfer of funds to be done.
Perfect. I think that covers all the questions that we had in the chat. As we said, we'll be...
John, you're muted. I can't hear you. Okay, so I can take over from here. So thank you everybody for joining this webinar, and we're just like a couple minutes over the hour, but it has been so great to be able to have Kathleen and Shada to join Mitacs here to present from your perspectives and sharing the answers to all the questions. This is the first time that Mitacs and NSERC to collaborating on such a webinar facing to original colleges and polytechnics. So later on, the attendees will receive a very, very brief survey, maybe take up to 1 minute. So we will be really appreciating your feedback regarding that, which will be very beneficial for us if we want to replicate to other regions. So yeah, I think that concludes today's. Thanks everyone for joining. Thanks again for Kathleen and Shada, and thanks for Mitacs Marcom team to support that at the back for the tech issue. If anyone else has any questions, please do talk to a Mitacs advisor in your region. We can support you from there. Have a great afternoon.
Thank you.
Thank you.